My name is Frida Franco, and I was 29 years old when I finally understood something that took me most of my adult life to admit. Being reliable doesn't make you loved. It just makes you useful. The moment it clicked wasn't quiet. It wasn't private. It happened at my younger sister's birthday dinner in front of 11 people under warm restaurant lights with crystal glasses raised and laughter echoing off marble walls. We were at an upscale Italian restaurant she had chosen, the kind of place where the menu didn't list prices, and even the water came with a story and a surcharge. Everyone was dressed like this was some kind of celebration of success. My parents, my cousins, an aunt I hadn't seen in 6 years, even a few people I barely knew, but who somehow always showed up when food and money were involved. I paid for half the table without anyone noticing, like always. My sister, Amelia, stood up midway through the meal. She tapped her spoon against her glass, smiling that confident, careless smile she'd perfected over the years. The one that said she'd never really had to worry about consequences. She looked straight at me. "To the family ATM," she said brightly, lifting her glass. Here's hoping she finds a life someday. For a split second, the room went still. Then they laughed. Not awkward chuckles, not nervous smiles. Real laughter. Loud, comfortable, familiar. My mother laughed first, covering her mouth like it was adorable. My dad shook his head, amused. A couple of cousins exchanged looks and joined in anyway. Even my aunt, the one who hadn't spoken to me in years, laughed like she was finally in on a long-running joke. Someone muttered, "Damn, that's cold." But they were grinning when they said it. I felt my face heat up, but I didn't react. I'd learned a long time ago that reacting only made things worse. So I did what I always did. I nodded. I lifted my wine glass. I took a slow sip. Then I stood up. "To the birthday girl," I said calmly, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me, who just lost her lease, her car payment, and next month's tuition. The laughter died instantly. You could hear silverware hit porcelain. Someone cleared their throat. My sister's smile froze, her eyes darting toward my parents like she was waiting for backup. I set my glass down, pushed my chair in, and walked out. I didn't say another word. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already vibrating. Calls, texts, notifications stacking on top of each other like alarms. By the end of the hour, there were 42 missed calls. 10 from my mother, 8 from my father, more than a dozen from Amelia. The rest were relatives, probably trying to decide whether they should scold me or beg me, depending on which version of the story they'd heard first. But the real panic didn't start until later that night, because around 8:30 p.m., the safety net disappeared. I was the lease guarantor. I pulled out. I was the one making the automatic tuition payments. Reversed. I was covering the car loan. Payment failed. For the first time, there was no cushion, no quiet fix behind the scenes. No, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." The texts came fast after that. "What's going on? This isn't funny. Call me right now, please." I didn't answer. At 11:03 p.m., headlights swept across my driveway. It was my parents. They weren't angry. They weren't yelling. They were begging. My mother was crying before I even opened the door. My father stood behind her, nodding along to everything she said, like agreement might fix what money couldn't anymore. Amelia couldn't lose the apartment. She needed the car. School was important. Didn't I understand? Didn't I care? I let them inside. And for the first time in years, I told the truth. I told them I'd been paying Amelia's rent for 4 years, covering tuition, food, insurance, credit cards she forgot she opened, repairs, emergencies that were never really emergencies, just poor planning cushioned by my bank account. And every time they praised her for being so independent, I swallowed it. Every time they thanked her for figuring things out, I smiled. Tonight, they'd made it a joke. I told them I was done. My mother said Amelia was still figuring things out. My father said I was overreacting. Neither of them apologized. They stayed until nearly 1 in the morning, hoping I'd change my mind. I didn't. When they finally left, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The morning after the dinner, my phone felt like it was alive. Not metaphorically, physically. It buzzed on my nightstand so hard it rattled against the wood, like it was trying to crawl back into my life on its own. Calls stacked on calls, message previews flashing long enough for me to recognize the tone before disappearing again. Anger first, then panic, then guilt. I didn't open a single one. Instead, I muted every group chat I was in. Family, extended family. That cousins-only thread that only ever came alive when there was gossip or someone needed a favor. The silence that followed was immediate and unsettling, like stepping into a soundproof room after years of constant noise. I went to work. I answered emails. I made coffee. I existed. And for the first time in a long time, none of it revolved around fixing someone else's mess. Amelia didn't call right away. That wasn't a coincidence. She thought she had time. Thought I'd cool off like I always did. Thought guilt would kick in around noon, that familiar tightness in my chest that usually sent me reaching for my phone with an apology I didn't owe. She thought I'd reach out first. She didn't realize the systems that already started collapsing. 2 hours after I left the restaurant, she must have checked her email. The lease termination notice went out at 8:12 p.m. Clean, automated, merciless. The tuition reversal showed up in her university portal shortly after. Bold red banners impossible to ignore. The car payment bounced just minutes later. This time, the notifications weren't just mine. At 9:07 a.m., she posted a black screen on Instagram. White text, centered, dramatic. Betrayal always comes from the ones closest to you. 20 minutes later, another story. Imagine destroying your own family because you can't take a joke. By mid-morning, screenshots started coming in from my cousin Erica. "Do you think Frida's serious?" Amelia had messaged her. "Everything just shut down. My lease is gone, my tuition too. She's ruining my life." Erica replied with one sentence. "You might want to talk to her yourself." That was it. No advice, no defense, no judgment. Just the truth Amelia had been avoiding. The rest of the day passed in a strange quiet. Amelia went silent again. That was her next move. Strategic absence. She believed silence made people uncomfortable, that it created a vacuum I'd rush to fill. She'd used it on me my whole life. It didn't work this time. At 7:34 p.m., my phone rang. Once. I let it ring out. Again. Then again. And again. 5 calls back to back, each one more desperate than the last. Then the texts. "You can't do this. Please call me. Please, Frida. The apartment is gone. My car is about to get towed. I'm not playing around." Then the tone shifted. I was joking. You know that. It wasn't that deep. One line at dinner. You're really going to destroy my life over that? And finally, the guilt. Mom and Dad can't help. They thought you were taking care of it. You always have. How could you just leave me like this? I didn't respond. At 9:45 p.m., my mother started calling. Then my father. Then Amelia again. A voicemail came through. I didn't listen. At 11:01 p.m., headlights swept across my front yard for the second night in a row. This time, I was already standing by the door. I opened it before they knocked. My mother's face was streaked with tears. My father looked hollow, like he hadn't slept at all. They stepped inside without waiting to be invited. No greetings, no pleasantries, straight to pleading. Amelia was talking about dropping out. She had nowhere to go, no money, no idea how to manage on her own. They were out of options. Didn't I care? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I asked them to sit down. And then I told them what it had cost me, what it felt like to juggle 2 jobs while Amelia posted road trip photos she never paid for. How every cheerful, "Hey, quick question" text came with a price tag. How I delayed my own plans, my own life, my own stability, so she wouldn't fall behind. And how not once did anyone ask if I was okay. They made me a joke, and now they wanted empathy. When I finished, my mother wiped her eyes and said, "She's your sister." My father added, "She didn't mean it. You're making this bigger than it needs to be." I stood up and opened the door. They left without arguing. But the look they gave me, as if I had betrayed them, followed me long after the door closed. I didn't sleep that night, not because I doubted myself, but because I finally saw it clearly. They never saw me as their daughter, just the fallback. A week passed. No calls, no texts, no passive-aggressive quotes from Amelia's Instagram story. Even the family group chat went dead, which almost impressed me. It was the longest stretch of silence we'd ever had, and for a moment, I wondered if this was what acceptance looked like. Maybe they were embarrassed. Maybe they were finally sitting with what they'd done. Then, late Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from my mother. I didn't listen. Instead, a text came through a minute later. "Hey, sweetie. We're having a small family gathering tonight. Just close family. It's about you. Please come by after work if you can. It's important. No drama. No pressure." Which, of course, meant pressure. I stared at the message longer than I should have. Curiosity tugged at me, quiet but persistent. And beneath it, something more dangerous. Hope. The kind you swear you don't have anymore until it shows up anyway. Maybe they understood. Maybe this was their way of fixing it. I arrived around 6:30 p.m. The porch light was on. Balloons were tied to the mailbox. Through the front window, I could see movement, hear laughter, music drifting out like nothing had ever happened. Inside, it felt normal, too normal. A banner stretched across the living room wall, "World's Best Daughter." There were snacks, drinks, a grocery store cake with badly piped frosting. My parents stood near the kitchen, smiling like hosts at a surprise party. Amelia was there too, standing off to the side, arms folded loosely, expression neutral. Carefully neutral. Cousins. An aunt. People who hadn't answered my texts a week ago suddenly hugged me like they'd missed me. My mother wrapped me in a tight embrace. My father clapped my shoulder. "Good to see you." Amelia smiled, polite, controlled, like she hadn't been sending frantic messages begging me to save her life days earlier. For a moment, it felt surreal, like I'd stepped into an alternate version of my family, one where accountability existed. They handed me a small silver box. "A thank you," my mom said, "for everything you've done, for holding this family together all these years." Inside was a t-shirt. Reliable, resourceful, real, cheesy, corny. But it made me smile despite myself. Beneath it was a framed photo of all of us from 5 years ago, before things fell apart, before the lines between help and obligation blurred beyond recognition. It felt personal, thoughtful, dangerously convincing. For the next hour, people asked about me, my job, my plans, and this time they actually listened. No interruptions. No quick pivots back to Amelia's struggles. No one mentioned money. No one mentioned the apartment. For the first time in years, I was the center of the room for reasons that didn't involve fixing something, and I almost let myself believe it. Then I asked the wrong question. "So," I said lightly, glancing around, "what's the plan now?" The room stilled. I followed up, slower. "Amelia's rent is due soon, right?" My mother sighed softly, like she'd been waiting for this moment. "We were hoping," she said, "that you might reconsider helping, just temporarily, until she finds something better." My father nodded. "You've always been the dependable one. We thought we could count on you." There it was, wrapped in frosting and banners and cheap cake. "If you don't help," my mom added quietly, "we might have to take second jobs. We didn't expect you to turn your back on us like this." No apology, no accountability, just obligation, served with a smile. I didn't argue. I stood up. "Come see me," I said evenly, "when you actually need the money." I set the gift box down, left the shirt, left the photo. No goodbyes. I walked out while the cake candles were still lit. 2 weeks. This time, there were no balloons, no banners, no music pretending things were normal. Just a knock at my door. I knew who it was before I opened it. My father stood there holding a thin folder, the kind people carry when they want proof more than conversation. My mother stood beside him, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. No, Amelia. "We need to talk," my dad said. I stepped aside. They sat at my kitchen table and laid everything out like evidence in a trial. An eviction notice, a warning from the auto lender, tuition balance due, a printed bank statement with $24.38 highlighted in yellow. "She's drowning," my mother said quietly. "No tears this time, just exhaustion. We don't know what else to do." Then came the number. Just under $20,000. Enough to reset everything. Enough to put her back where she'd been before the toast. Before consequences. I didn't flinch. I stood up, walked into the other room, and came back with a document. A simple contract. A loan. Repayable over 24 months. No interest. Signed by Amelia and one of them. My mother stared at it like I'd slid a weapon across the table. "What is this?" she asked. My father's voice hardened. "You want us to sign a contract to help your sister?" "Yes." The room changed instantly. "We're your parents. What happened to you? When did you get so cold?" I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just waited. They didn't sign. They left angry, calling me selfish, heartless, changed. 3 days later, my mother came back, alone. She didn't fight, didn't argue, didn't defend Amelia. She sat down, picked up the contract, and signed it. The next morning, I wired the money. No thank you came. Not from Amelia, not from my parents. Weeks passed. Then Amelia's Instagram lit up again. New clothes, nights out, filtered smiles. A caption that read, "Real ones don't break, they rebuild." Her friends commented hearts. I was the rebuild. Still, I said nothing. Until the day she showed up at my door. New jacket, fresh nails, expensive shoes. "I just need a little extra," she said lightly, like she was asking to borrow sugar. I laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly, just once. Then I closed the door. 2 days later, I wired $3,000 to my mother's account. No contract, no repayment. Just one message. "Don't ever ask me for anything again." An hour later, she replied, "Thank you, that was kind. We won't bother you again." It read like a receipt. Since then, nothing. They've been paying the loan back on time, every month, exactly the minimum. No warmth, no messages, just damage control. Amelia, keeps posting about strength and independence. From what I hear, she's barely getting by now. It's hers. My parents don't call, not even on my birthday. Erica told me once that my mom said, "We don't talk about her anymore. It's like she died." Maybe that's easier for them. But I didn't walk away over money. I walked away because even at the end, they still made a joke out of me. That toast wasn't harmless. It was truth. And that last $3,000, it was my final attempt to believe they might care. They didn't. Now I don't check my phone expecting anything. And even if it rang, I wouldn't answer. Not to argue, not to fix, not to save. There's nothing left to save. They have each other. And for the first time in my life, I have peace.